morning, everybody, and Brett, thank you for all the nice words. I actually had a chance recently to participate in a radio interview with Lacey about Southern Nights, and then yesterday I was interviewed for something else for City Business, and one of the questions that I was asked was about giving advice to young professionals coming up. And in both of those situations, the interview that Lacey and I were in and in that other conversation, I came back to talking about how important it is to be involved in the community and being involved in the chamber. And when I started to explain that to the person who was doing the interview, I told them about, how many good contacts that, I made and how many friends that I've made through the chamber that otherwise I wouldn't have. So it definitely has been a really good thing for both us from a business standpoint, from Humana from a business standpoint, but for me personally as well. So I just want to tack that on to Brett's comments. So, and as many of you know, Humana, we are one of the leading payers in the health and wellness space. We have a big presence nationally as well as in Louisiana. And again, we do encourage our entire workforce to be involved in the community, and we try to demonstrate that by leaders as well. And I'm also a commuter. So I live over here, but our office is technically in Metairie. So I do drive the causeway, so I definitely have an interest, and I've seen all kinds of things on the causeway. So the main thing I think concern for commuters is, definitely safety. So I think we're going to hear some of that today. So it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker. Our speaker is Carlton Dufacheau. And they only have to say that one time. He is a native of Southeast Louisiana. As a graduate of Tulane University, Carlton has coordinated public projects and programs for almost 30 years. His experience started in the New Orleans district of the Corps of Engineers, where he was able to practice planning, implementation, management of resources, environmental restoration, and flood control projects in central and southern Louisiana. In June 1992, Carlton became executive director of the Lake Pontchartrain Basin Foundation. As director, Carlton coordinated the overall planning and implementation of efforts to restore and preserve the ecology of the 10,000 square mile Pontchartrain Basin surrounding Metro New Orleans. Under Carlton's leadership, the Lake Pontchartrain Basin Foundation received numerous recognitions, including the National Watershed Award, 2 EPA Environmental Excellence Awards, and a Presidential Environmental Education Award. In August 2009, Carlton was selected as General Manager of the Greater New Orleans Expressway Commission. He is now responsible for all operations of the world's longest bridge, including emergency response, traffic control, maintenance, administration, and future planning. So please welcome Carlton Dufacheau.
Rhonda, thank you, and ladies and gentlemen, thanks for coming out on a wet day. May I see a show of hands of how many folks use the causeway regularly, like once a week or more? Yeah, about half of you. In the next 22 minutes, kind of give you a background of the causeway from day one to today, also some of our proposed safety improvements. But before I do that, the gentleman that I work with, Tony Lee, she's our chair, and Shelby LaSalle is our vice chair. If I really screw up, you talk to them and they'll pull me out of here before the day's over with. I get somebody better in here. The bridge is Stacy, go ahead to the first slide, please. Now, the mission. The mission of the Lake Pontchartrain Basin Foundation is very straightforward. It's to get all of our commuters back and forth safely and timely every day. Next one, Stacy. Go through a couple of things. History, challenges, solutions, alternatives, summary. Can you all in the back hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Go ahead, Stacy. History. Here we go. Bridge was completed in 1956. Am I blocking you all too much?
Don't worry about it.
It is still the longest bridge in the world, despite what the folks on the other side of the planet would like to say. Causeway is not only the longest bridge in the world, it was the first use of pre-stressed concrete for any bridge anywhere on the planet. It was component construction. Remember, when it was built in less than 2 years. The entire span was constructed. There were 3 basic elements: the piles, pile caps, and then the entire deck section where came out the actual pre-stressed site that is now potentially Port Marigny. That was the construction site, not only for the causeway, for the first span and the second span, but for all of the Interstate 10 system bridges along the Gulf Coast. It was a design base for all of them, so it was really cutting edge. First bridge cost $46 million. That included not only the bridge, but also paving what is Causeway Boulevard today, from the toe of the bridge on the South Shore to Jefferson Highway, what was then Veterans Highway, from Causeway back to the New Orleans city line, and on the North Shore, North Causeway all the way to Covington, and both the east and west approaches. Next one, please, Stace. 1969, traffic had come up to initial traffic was about 50,000 cars per year. By late 60s, it was up to 2 million cars per year. At that point, the second parallel span was constructed. It was an additional $30 million. Again, component construction, less than 2 years to build the entire bridge. If you drive the bridge, and many of you tell me about the thumpity thumps on the southbound bridge, they're there, no two ways about it. Remember, that first bridge was the first use of pre-stressed concrete anywhere in the world for a bridge. So all engineers, you design a factor of safety in all your projects. Because it was the initial use, the factor of safety was actually greater than typically used, and that's why you've got a larger camber in the southbound bridge and causing the clump, clump, clump between the deck sections. Those deck sections are 56 feet long. On the northbound, the 69 bridge, they're 84 feet long. So the technology in that 13-year period had improved. The deck sections became longer. The camber is actually less on the longer sections, and that's why the northbound bridge gives a much smoother ride. Next one, please, Stace. Financial history. Original bridge was $46 million. Second bridge, 69, was $30 million. The bridges were refinanced in 5 times, 73, 86, 92, 99, and 2003, either for ongoing maintenance or for major improvements. The primary major improvements that are visible would be on the North Shore, the Monroe overpass and the intersection at the toe of the bridge. And on the South Shore, there was a plan to actually elevate Causeway Boulevard from the toe of the bridge on the South Shore to I-10 to facilitate traffic flow. That ended up becoming widening of Causeway to 4 lanes on the South Shore. Next, we did in 2009 and 2013 and 14, we refunded the remaining 2 bonds, which would have been the 99 and 2003 funds. We did not draw new money. We just capitalized on lower interest rates, and by doing so, the commissioners here saved almost $5 million in interest rates. The existing bond balance today is about $43,500,000, I think $60. Next one, please, Stace. Maintenance of the bridge. The bridge, again, it's 60 years old. The original design life of that first bridge was 30 years. It's 60 years old next month. Actually, end of this month, August 29th. The reason the causeway is here today is because inspections have been annual, maintenance has been continual. That is what is different about this bridge compared to the major infrastructures throughout the country. In concept, that bridge could last an infinite period of time as long as the maintenance continues. And the biggest problem we're having, however, is the bridge is, both of them, they're 20th century designs, and today we have 21st century conditions. We're going to go into those in a minute. Let's go, Stace. Tolls. Tolls have been, actually tolls fund 100% of all our operations and maintenance. They are the lowest of any bridge or roadway in the entire country, and the only toll increase was in 1995. Go ahead. Round trip toll was $2 cash in 1956. If you have a toll tag, it is still $2. Next, please. Bennett budgets and audits. I think most of you know this. We are audited every year. We've had clean audits for 10 years. These are by the state. Everything is posted on the website, and all of our major expenditures are presented to the commissioners monthly, and they do all those approvals. The budget, the 2016 budget, I'm very proud of this, and it's not my doing, but it's the commissioners and the staff. The budget of the GNOEC this year is actually lower than it was 10 years ago. We are operating with 80% of the staff we did 7 years ago, and they're doing the same amount of work. It's a lean and mean operation. I put them up against any other public entity in the state. Next one, please, State. This is the budgets for this year. $22 million of income, $22 million of expenses. If any of you would like this, it's all on the website. And the next one's the one I really want to show you. Go ahead, Stace. That's the cumulative budgets for the past 10 years. And if you look up at the top, 2006, we had $23,000,001, and today on the bottom, $22,300,000. The next year's budget will be approximately close to the $22,300,000 from what we're looking at now. Challenges, let's go. 1956, first year was 50,000 vehicles, mentioned in 16. By the end of the 60s, we had 2 million vehicles today per year. This is the problem. We've got 6 times the traffic today. 12 million vehicles use the bridge per day. We have the same volume of traffic on the causeway every morning going south as I-10 twin spans do for value per lane. The twin spans, though, have 3 lanes and 2 shoulders. We've got it all in sequence. Next one, please. 20th century design. Bridge, again, it was state of the art when it was designed. The southbound bridge was designed in 54, 55, completed in 56. Northbound bridge was completed in 69, designed in 66, 67. Biggest problem we have out there today is we don't have shoulders. Shoulders on bridges at that period were non-existent. The only emergency stopping area we have on the causeway are the 7 crossovers, which are 84 feet square. They were never designed to be emergency stopping areas. If you think about it, you're decelerating from 65 miles an hour to 0 at 84 feet, and if you try to get out of there, you're trying to accelerate to highway speed in the same amount of distance. They were there strictly as a crossover to get vehicles back and forth for maintenance. Emergency stopping areas, this is the biggest problem we've got each and every day. Go ahead, Stace. The rails, 1956 bridge is shown, the cross-section in gray. Important thing here is the top of the concrete barrier on the 56 bridge is only 26 inches above the roadway. The handrail on top, that is an aluminum rail. If you hit it with a hammer, it will knock off. It is designed to do that. It was never designed to be an impact barrier for vehicles. It's there because, remember, no shoulders. This curb, it was designed as a haven of last resort. If you break down, that's where he wants you to go. In fact, it seems like kind of counterintuitive, but if you cannot get to it, if you have a distressed situation on the causeway, if you have a flat tire, we want you to roll on that tire to keep going to a crossover. If the vehicle, for some reason, fails completely and you have to stop in the roadway, stop, turn on your flashers, get out of the vehicle and go back to the rear of the vehicle toward traffic, and then get on this thing. Get on this little curve. This is a haven of last resort from 56, and it still serves that purpose. It's a critical ingredient for the bridge. The northbound bridge is dotted in. The top of the barrier is 31 inches. That 6-inch difference makes a tremendous difference in safety for the vehicles of today. And you'll see those in just a second. Go ahead, Stace. Traffic counts. That's just coming up from 1956 to, I think this is through 2013. 2 key things here are this 69, when the second bridge was built, 2 million cars per year. Look at it today. Same traffic, same roadways, but 6 times the amount of traffic. The other thing I'd like to note is right here in the mid-1990s, that's when we started seeing a switch in the country from old farts and trading like me that grew up with heavy Detroit iron, low center of gravity automobiles, to about 1 of every 2 cars on the vehicles on the causeway today is an SUV or personal truck. So every time, probably if you look outside, it's almost the same switch also. But the SUVs and personal trucks, the higher center of gravities, they are designed to climb over things and curbs. And unfortunately, the overboard situations we've had have been almost exclusively with SUVs. The other challenge we've had in these last couple of, probably last decade, all of us are walking around with 1 or 2 multiple cell phones or some kind of electronic device on us. And unfortunately, the degree of, trying to figure out how to put this politically correctly. All boils down to personal responsibility. Unfortunately, some individuals are too tied to having these things in front of them and having to respond right away. If you're on the bridge, focus for 22 minutes on nothing but drive, and you get to the other side safely. Next one, please. Consequences of the 21st century. Go ahead. We touched on these briefly. 2,000 breakdowns per year. Actually, last year we had 2,100 and change. Every day on the causeway, we will have at least 4 to 8 breakdowns. That doesn't make the media unless it is catastrophic. The thing that concerns us so much, and while Mr. Graham and my staff are all walking around with all kind of beepers on them, as soon as there's a breakdown on the causeway, that's when the staff stops. The dispatchers get it, the camera department tries to locate it, they get the closest police officer or map unit to that breakdown as soon as possible. The average response time of my staff is unbelievable. It's less than 5 minutes to a breakdown. Unfortunately, we've had 178 crashes last year alone in 2015. Of those 178 crashes. 65 were rear ends into broken down vehicles that happened within the first 2 to 3 minutes of the breakdown before we were able to get to them. And that's the things that keep us awake all the time. And that's the primary reason we're pushing so hard for these segmented shoulder safety bays that we'll show you in a minute. Next one, Stace. Vehicles overboard. Since 1994, we've had 14 vehicles overboard. Unfortunately, 11 fatalities involved in those. 13 of those 14 have been on the southbound bridge. 13 of the 14 have been SUVs or personal trucks. The only automobile, low center of gravity automobile that went over was a multi-car collision, a small car that was actually pushed over the southbound bridge. Next one, Stace. Okay, watch this. It's a bit graphic.
Oh my goodness.
This was September of 2013. Stace, run one more time, please. This was a Monday afternoon in September, about 4:30. It's going to be a black Ford F-250. Kisses that rail, hits this one. Unfortunately, we lost the driver. Okay, Stace, this next one's going to be even a little bit more. This was in November. Watch up here of 2014. This was a Sunday morning.
Did they hit the side rail?
Yes. Go ahead, Stace, do it one more time.
That's northbound.
This is going to be southbound. We're looking south right now, Lacey.
Is it raining?
It was wet, it was slick. The rain had stopped, but it was still slick. Okay, Stace, let's go forward. Watch this. Crystal clear day. The vehicle that was hit was a Jeep SUV. The lady that was in it, unbelievably fortunate, was pushed into the back of a lowboy. It started to cut into the cockpit of the vehicle. Had to cut the vehicle apart to get the woman out. I think she was hurt, but she made it, thank goodness. Those are the ones that, particularly those rear ends, that concern us so much. Go ahead, Stace. Solutions. 2 bridges, the rails. I think you've seen a lot of the media. We started working originally over 2 years ago with our consulting engineers, then with Department of Transportation and Development. DOTD actually put us onto the Texas Traffic Institute, and some of the crash tests that they've helped us with. They've come up with, actually, 11 different alternatives. This is the selected alternative they're recommending for the southbound bridge. It is a double row steel rail that would be 46 inches above the deck level on the southbound bridge. So it would add 21 inches to the top of the existing concrete on the southbound bridge. Go ahead. That's an artist's rendition of what it would look like on the southbound bridge. Keep going. Statistics, some of the questions we had, if we put the rails on the bridge, on the southbound bridge, would that induce unintentional consequences, actually cause more crashes on the southbound bridge instead of the vehicles going over? Statistically, if you look at both bridges over the long term, we've got almost the same number of accidents on the northbound bridge as the southbound bridge. So if that were the case, we would see more impacts right now on the northbound bridge, which we don't. More crashes or more fatal incidents, which we don't. Next one, please, Stace. Northbound bridge, again, this is 1969 vintage. To get it up to current standards, A&M is recommending going with a single rail option that you see right there. Go ahead, Stace. That's the artist's rendition of the northbound bridge. Keep going, please. Segmented shoulder safety bay, this is where I really want to go. Remember those breakdowns, the 2,000 plus a year, the 4 at least a day. Right now we've just got those 4 crossovers, 84 feet square. The best of all worlds for all of us on the causeway. Our dream sheet for the staff and the commissioners is to add continuous shoulders on the entire bridge. That's $1.8 billion. I'm an optimist, but that's way above my optimistic level and all the good praying we could do. Trying to be as pragmatically as we can, we're proposing, or we're referring to them as safety bays. They're basically segmented shoulders. These would each be 2 blocks long, 672 feet long. They would be placed mid-span between each of the existing 7 crossovers, 6 northbound, 6 southbound. If we construct these, they would almost triple the emergency stopping area on the bridge. And more importantly, you can decelerate in them easily. You can accelerate out of them easily too. They are designed that if manna came from heaven and Senator Cassidy and Congressman Scalise and everybody, the country's doing terrific and get all these good federal grants. You could keep going and add in between them. But these we think are if I had a son and I could sell that son, this is what I would sell my oldest son to try to get. These things are critical for the safety of all. I wouldn't do that. I got a little dog. Next one, Stace. That's it again, artist rendition of what they look like. Keep going. Alternatives, go ahead. Grants. I used to be semi-successful with creating grants for the nonprofits, but I'm not doing that great for the Greater New Orleans Expressway Commission. We've had a tremendous amount of support from the congressional delegation, from Senator Cassidy's office, from Senator Vitter, even from Senator Landrieu Pryor, certainly from Congressman Scalise. They have all written letters of support to us for Tiger grants. Unfortunately, the United States government now seems to be more interested in connectivity than safety. The one avenue that we are still exploring is the TIFIA, Transportation Infrastructure and Finance. This is actually not a grant, but a low interest rate loan. Actually, we're in conversations with the TIFIA staff again yesterday. This could fund up to 30% of the total improvements. The problem with TIFIA is this basically will be alternative financing. It will take, you have to finance the entire project by itself first, and then the TIFIA program will come out and take out a third of that loan. It is still attractive though, and we're looking into it because the interest rate is about 2%, which is, bonds are still low, but this is even better than bonds. Next one, please, Stace. The alternatives, to run through them real quickly, everything from rails on just a northbound bridge, rails on the southbound bridge. Northbound bridge would be 30 million, southbound bridge rails would be 40 million. The segmented shoulder safety bays, 12 of those are 63 million. Rail improvements on both bridges alone are 70 million. Rail improvements on the southbound bridge and safety bays are 103 million. The rail improvements on both bridges and safety bays is 133. And you can't see down here, unfortunately, the shoulders continuously along the entire bridge are 1.8 million. Go ahead, Stace. Billion, yeah, I apologize. Remember a 1960s product that bees still scare the daylights out of me. Through the matrix, the first one that fell out, obviously the 1.8 billion, that's not going to happen. Go ahead, Stace. To do this, we would be talking about a $20 plus toll. If that was the Northeast, that might work. We're not the Northeast. The next one, rails on the northbound bridge alone. If we could do it, that would be wonderful to have, but the northbound bridge is not our problem. Those rails, well, we'd like to get them up to current standards, they work. Next one, please, Stace. When that fell out, the rails for both bridges fell out. Go ahead, Stace. Segmented shoulders, again, the highest priority. And what you're hearing now are the staff's recommendation to the commissioners. Go ahead, Stace. Improved rails on the southbound bridge we also believe are necessary. Go ahead. And ultimately, we recommended to the commissioners improving the rails on the southbound bridge and the segmented shoulders. Approximate cost of that is $100 to $105 million. We're using $103 million as a placeholder right now. Next, Stace. Okay, how long will it take? For the safety bays, we're looking at about 2 years for construction. We actually could do both projects together. We're very conscious on the bridge of keeping our commuters moving all the time, minimizing impacts to commuters, and also trying to limit the number of rubberneckers we have. And no matter, myself included, we're all human, we're all curious. So our recommendation is to do the segmented shoulders first. Get those out there for two reasons. It's going to give us more emergency stopping area right away. If there is an incident on the bridge, that emergency stopping area will actually reduce the impacts for delays to traffic. That'd be followed by the segmented shoulders, which would be about another year. The safety bays would all be built outboard of the existing roadway, so the impacts would not impact any traffic on the bridge until the very bitter end, when the existing rail would be demolished and the shoulders opened up. The rails would be prefabricated off-site. Basically, be four things that would happen. Rails fabricated, a crew would come in, start knocking down a section of rails. Another crew would follow, drilling the holes to attach the new rails. Then one more crew would follow to anchor the new rails in, and they'd be done in reaches of the bridge. Next one, please. That would be about a year to do those. Summary? Okay, we're almost there. Current toll tag cost is $2, cash toll is $3. The increase we're proposing, this is to finance now, $100 to $130 million. We put up to $133 million as a max. The target for us right now is about 100 to 105 that I mentioned, but the tag toll would increase to finance at $105 million to $3. The cash toll would increase $2 to $5. This would be tied to the consumer price index. So the reason we're doing that, if we did the one-time toll increase now for 30-year bonding, this would have to double, and this would also. Tying it to the CPI, the financial managers are telling us that in 7 years, the CPI is projected to go up about 10-15%, so this would go to 330 to 340, and accordingly as time would go on. And that would be a cap. It would be tied to the max. Next one, Stace. Again, the reason we're doing this is to prevent incidents like this. Go ahead, Stace. That was the SUV that you saw. We'll go over. Go ahead. And this is, we're really proud of the work that A&M did on this. It's a high-profile vehicle. You notice how it stays in the lane? It does not ricochet off. That was part of the design of the rails. They flex, so it is not a rigid, like concrete face that could ricochet off. This actually absorbs some of the impact. The A&M rail, this meets all national criteria. It actually, these crash tests were 72 miles an hour. They exceed the national MASH TL4 criteria. Not only the causeway, but the state of Louisiana, Mr. LaSalle knows this better than I, has 228 miles of bridges of comparable vintage as a causeway, contemporaries. The state's looking at these rails right now to retrofit on some of their bridges. Next one, Stace. This is the rear ends. This happened in February of 2016, about 2 miles from the south shore of the causeway, the southbound bridge. We had two ladies in a truck. Truck broke down. It was rear-ended by another pickup in less than 90 seconds. The first vehicle caught on fire. We were so fortunate there was an off-duty state police officer that had just passed. He stopped. He was able to break the windows, get the ladies out of the vehicle, and literally save their lives. Next one, Stace. I think some of you may have been involved in the backup on this one. This was May of 2016, of a Thursday morning coming southbound. There was a breakdown on the bridge that we got to just around the 14-mile marker southbound. Moved that breakdown just before 7 a.m. Unfortunately, that induced this snaking kind of caterpillar effect, and that resulted in a 5-car crash right at the drawbridge. The individual in this vehicle actually had to cut the vehicle apart to get him out, and unfortunately I learned this morning that while he was okay in the hospital, apparently he contracted pneumonia and didn't make it. Next one, Stace. Wanda, okay, I think this is going to be the little video. If you are a Pelican or a driver, this is going to be what the safety shoulders would look like. Come on. Kind of like a high altitude Pelican. You see it expanding out. And these are geared at highway speed, at 65 miles an hour. This is what it would look like if you're driving on a northbound bridge. You'll see it coming up on the right in just a second. And it is not an insignificant length. As you can see, a lot of space to get in and out. And I think we're almost there. If you have any comments that you'd like to give to us, certainly you can tell us today verbally. Or if you'd like to write us anything, there's a dedicated comment site on our website, comments@gnoec.org. All of this is on the website with a plethora of other information too. Is that it? Did we get there?
Oh no, we got questions.
Okay. Come on, we almost made it.
All right, so there's quite a few questions. So
Good.
The first one I would ask is, just after seeing that video, is there going to be, do you fear anyone like pulling into that shoulder and like trying to pass people? That's my first thought when I see something like that.
Good question.
Someone's going to come around and people will do that.
Exactly.
Is some of us have probably experienced firsthand. The causeway is the most highly regulated roadway in the entire state. On an average month, our police officers will issue over 1,100 citations. 70% of those are for moving violations. And people do, forgive me, stupid things.
Yeah.
We can't guarantee that somebody won't try it, but if somebody tries it, they're going to get. I mean, one other thing, the thing that makes the causeway so safe, the staff is, I got a magnificent staff. I cannot say enough about them. But the other thing that makes this causeway so safe is our commuters. Commuters look out for everybody else. They are a force multiplier when it comes to enforcement. As much as I talk about people looking down at texting and this kind of stuff, our commuters are the best sources of information, whether it's a breakdown or somebody doing something stupid on that, they call, and we want to get that, because that's the best way we can assure the safety of the bridge. I'm sorry.
No, that's good. Okay, so I have a handful of questions. Keep on bringing them up here. So, I have a question here that this has already been approved by Senate Bill 273 and signed by Governor Edwards June 13th. Has this already been approved?
No. The bonding. We went to the legislature late last year to talk about increasing the bonding cap. At that point, we used a $133 million number as a placeholder because that was the max we had.
Okay.
We went through House committees, Senate committees, multiple testimonies. That's been advertised. And what the legislature passed was giving the GNOEC the ability to bond up to $133 million.
So does it require St. Tammany Council approval?
Yeah.
It does.
The first thing it's going to require is our commissioners, the Great Northern Expressway Commission, to hopefully adopt the recommendations of the staff. After that, the commission would adopt a toll increase, and at that point, go back to both parishes.
All right, here's an interesting question. This is someone who's been following and knows what's going on. Some of these questions, I'm like, wow. Is it true? True or false?
I'm an engineer, I'm not an attorney.
Is it true that if the debt is paid off, the bridge becomes toll-free and will become the property of the state and operated by DOTD?
Yes.
So is there any advantage or disadvantage of that?
I'm going to give you a personal opinion and nothing else after 7 years. As far as the debt was news to me when I came in too, I think, as most of us. Is there an advantage? From my almost 7 years with the Expressway Commission, if there is not a GNOEC, there has to be a dedicated entity that is operating the causeway for two reasons. First of all, for enforcement and first response, to be sure that, this bridge without shoulders, it's not I-10. You're going to have first responders out there all the time. The other is, what makes this bridge unique today, besides the length, is it's sturdy, it's robust. You want to be sure that somebody's out here doing maintenance all the time on it. Without that, we're going to have a roadway that will become in disrepair, as unfortunately many throughout the country are.
Okay.
And that's a personal opinion, nobody else's.
There we go. So, if the original 1956 toll of $2 had been tied to CPI, what would the toll be today?
About $18.
Okay.
Think about a Coke for anybody that's approaching the 60-year-old mark.
All right.
Where was it?
I'm going to try and summarize.
I'm the only one that's approaching 60.
I'm going to try and summarize this question because it's very complicated and it's a math calculation.
Oh,
I
Lord.
see someone was thinking when they did this. But basically, it's saying that this roadway is actually 2.1 times safer than the average highway in America, and that the expense we're spending here would be the equivalent of spending $30 million per life that would be saved. Is that true, false? How do you feel?
The 2.1 is correct. The causeway today is, that's compared to I-10 to major roadways throughout the state. And again, the reason it's so safe is because the commuters looking out for each other, and the quick response is the strong enforcement. As far as the second question was, is $30 million worth of life? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Some of us have lost people. Life is priceless. That's an opinion. In my opinion, life is priceless. Yeah, I want to say this. The reason I'm still with the GNOEC is I've had 4 opportunities to go to places since I've been with GNOC. The reason I stay is because of Bob Graham, Stacey Hefner, the police officers, my med guys. Causeway never sleeps. These people are on duty 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. I've seen them out there in snowstorms. I've seen them in hurricanes. Mr. LaSalle was out there right after Katrina. Mr. Leachy's on the phone with me whenever anything happens in the middle of the night. These people are there because they believe in the mission to get all of our commuters back and forth safely in time. And ladies and gentlemen, they get a pittance of a salary, and they probably will not, while the GNOEC, you saw the budget, we can afford, there's no such thing as a step increase in the Causeway anymore. Everybody gets a performance evaluation, and the only people that get increases are those that perform. And I am very pleased and proud to tell you that I got a crew of stellar performers now. They were scheduled to get a nominal salary increase this year. But because of the state, and we're a quasi-state entity that the governor's put a cap on salaries, my folks probably will not get a salary increase. And they're also seeing an increase in health benefits, so their net revenue. And the people I'm really concerned about, the majority of the people that I have are making, with the exclusive of police officers, are making under $40,000 a year. And they've got families. And the reason I stay out there is because of these people. They sincerely believe, forgive me, but I'm damn proud. I'm sorry.
Just add to that, the law enforcement staff is paid equal to or less than others.
That's true.
And the other downfall of being a Causeway police officer is you don't have the opportunity to work special detail
No, that's right.
on construction of it, as other officers throughout the country have to increase their salary.
Yeah. And forgive my emotion, I'm proud of these folks.
Why don't they have the opportunity to?
Because they only can work a special detail connected with the bridge.
Okay.
And there's not a lot of things going on the bridge that they can earn extra money. Where you take on any city or the parish, there's always a construction project that needs policemen.
Right.
They pay $40 an hour for a special detail policeman, which they deserve it.
Right.
Causeway don't have that opportunity. Causeway
Okay.
officers don't have that opportunity.
Question here.
Yes, sir.
What if you did the increase starting year 1, but you didn't start the project till year 3 or 4? Could you reduce the cost or not as much interest cost? So
No. I mentioned the one-time impact. If you increase the total, it would have to effectively double in advance to get the money. And no, actually we are looking at stepping, potentially doing 2 bond issues. The first would be $60 million for the safety segmented shoulders, and the second would be $40 million for the rails. And that conversation is still ongoing.
Okay.
All of this, we're trying to minimize, the goal of this is to get these benefits, minimize the cost. Maximize the safety benefits, minimize the cost.
keep sending in questions if you have any more. There's 3 or 4 questions about money that's going to other parts. Huey P. Long.
Sure.
Jefferson Parish, St. Charles, $25,000 from New Orleans Police Department, $25,000 for Rec District, $5 for coffee. I don't know. They got a very specific list here. What are you thinking? What's all the money go to?
That's part of the 1986 legislation. We've about 1.6 million goes. We police the Huey Long. The legislature tasked the GNOEC with policing the Huey Long in 1986. We still do it. And it was a royal pain in the neck when it was under construction. It was really royal pain in the neck. Also in that act, each of 7 parishes, Tangipahoa, St Tammany, Tangipahoa, St John, St Charles, Jefferson, Orleans, I hope that's 7, get $50,000 per year. That $50,000 came from the GNOEC and the Crescent City Connection were recipients of Highway Fund number 2. That's a license plate tax that we're all assessed on license plates annually. And that Highway Fund number 2 is dedicated to paying off of debt, of bonds. So GNOEC still gets in the neighborhood of the 5 years, 6 years I've been with GNOEC, it's been sufficient to pay for the debt in all but 1 year, and that 1 year we had to go into toll revenues. We get roughly about $5.5 million, $4 to $5.5 million per year, depending on the year. And did that answer the question?
I think so. All right.
Short
so-
answer is it's a legislature.
Couple of questions about cameras. How many cameras do you have? And have you ever considered using them for speeding
Yes.
as a speed camera?
The 37 cameras on the causeway, and actually they're going through an upgrade right now. We've got 2 new ones which have terrific optics on them. The question is, have you considered using them for speeding? Yes, and in fact go back and forth with discussions with the 2 parishes on the, unfortunately that ties in with the red light camera topic. And one parish went through that and didn't turn out so well. And I think the other parish is kind of leaning to consider it, but not warmly. However, we haven't given up the ghost on that. Actually, we haven't given up the ghost on some other stuff, unfortunately.
Okay. Why are the mile signs so close together? Why are there so many necessary?
My fault.
What's
My
that?
fault. The mile signs, actually, they meet, everything we do, we try to meet national specs. They are the new Department of Transportation specs. You will see them on, actually, the first ones, I think, were on I-10 twin spans. Those are at the same size signs, but they're 0.2 of a mile. Ours are 1/10 because right after those came out, the state of Louisiana, DOTD, came out with new guidance that if you are in a low visibility area, which the causeway is, that you should have mile markers every 1/10 of a mile. That's the reason they're there, but let me expand on that a little bit. The other reason we want them is for 2 reasons. They're big in fog operations that are critical to us in convoying. When we get below 1,500 feet visibility, we start a fog log. What that means is that the officers on the bridge will, every 15 minutes, they will give a visual sight distance of distance and what they can see. The way we used to do it was we'd count the expansion joints, those clumpity clumps. You'd see a sign up ahead, and okay, the officer would get 1 clump, 2 clumps, 3 clumps, and multiply. They either 56 feet or 84 feet in their head. With this, it worked, but it was not an absolute. With these, we have definites. We've got 500, basically 1/10 of a mile is 528 feet. So we got 500 feet, we got 1,000 feet. Once we get down to 1,000 feet, all Mr. Graham's guys start coming in from all over the place to start the fog operations. And at 500 feet, we actually initiate the convoys. The other reason we want them, ladies and gentlemen, and this is where they work. Before we had them, unfortunately, while we'd have people call in about breakdowns, sometimes it's hard to believe, but people would say they're on the northbound bridge when they're on the southbound bridge. And if you get distressed with those little mile markers, you may not know where you are. They're ugly, they're obvious, but they work. It's definitive now. When people call in, they know where they are, and we love them for that. I apologize that they ruined the view of the lake.
Okay. What other options have you considered, such as Jersey rails, which I'm not familiar with
Sure.
that term, reducing the thumpity-thump by raising the expansion joints, or leaving the rails like they are? So,
To us, leaving the rails like they are not an option. If we do that, there will be another overboard. The question, unfortunately, is just when. As far as Jersey barriers, that was the first. Jersey barrier is a typical concrete section you'll see on I-10 where it does not hit, on the twin spans where it does not have the metal rails, just a concrete barrier. To do that on the causeway, we would have to sacrifice the existing curb. You would build on top of the curb and go up. That was actually the first concept we looked into. That curb, if we lose the curb, we're putting people in the roadway. So that is the reason that the Jersey walls fell out. I'm sorry, what was the last one?
thumpity-thump, raising the
Okay,
expansion
remember,
joints.
the southbound bridge, each deck section is 56 feet long. Because of my kind, that engineering is a practical science, because we didn't have the technology then, we put an additional factor of safety in it. And actually, the engineers thought that camber would eventually decrease some. It didn't. He really did a good job on it. So we've got an 1.5 inches of difference from the peak, the crest of that deck section, down to the expansion joint on either end. So it goes column, column, column. The concept of putting a fillet in the inside of crossing over the expansion joint, then you'd have to put a filler on top of that. You tell an engineer to do it, I guarantee you that an engineer is going to come up with a solution. But to do that, we would be putting in 2,260-something large expansion joints over all these things. We'd have to come back in and put a filler on top of it. You'd have to get a material that could bond to the steel, to the concrete, would be durable for the duration. And remember this, we're gonna have to impact traffic.
Yeah.
And it would likely be in the tens of millions of dollars. It could be more than the rails. To us, it is not the better solution would be to build another bridge. Take the deck sections off and replace it.
Carl told me just have a couple more questions.
Come on, we're going good.
Yeah.
We're going, if y'all can tolerate me. Come on.
One of the questions, so I was going through Mobile and they have the flashing lights when you come to that tunnel.
tunnel?
Yeah. Is there anything like that we can do remotely that creates more of a visual when
Yes.
the traffic's slowing
You're
down?
going to see two things happening. The last of, again, Graham, Shelby, many of the folks when I first came in, we tried to, the causeway, again, it's been, the structural maintenance has been robust. There are 9,000 piles under that bridge. 3,000 of those things have been encapsulated already. So that's okay. And in fact, there's an underwater inspection going on, not today, but this time of the year on a third of the piles. As far as the electronics, the message boards on the bridge are 20 years old now. Unfortunately, the technology, there are no more replacement parts, so the commissioners just approved a project last month to replace the message boards. I am very happy to tell you that within the year, we're going to be the first roadway in the state that has color boards. You'll see those in Texas, you'll see them in Florida, you'll see some in Alabama. These are going to actually be able to, on the boards, come up with a stop sign or a hazard light, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The call boxes also on the bridge, they were cutting-edge technology when they were put in. We're the only roadway in the country that has call boxes anymore. Nobody supports them. Those lights on those and the call boxes are going to be a presentation we're giving to the commissioners probably in 2 months for the next. That project will come online. The call box is probably in late 2017, early 2018.
All right, two more questions. So
Yes,
when
sir.
you're going southbound right now with fog, is this going to change the the bad weather? So
Okay.
is there any different procedure that you're going to have with bad weather once all the work is done? Well,
No.
still
No,
convoy, because don't you convoy one way, but because it's northbound?
We convoy in the direction of the commuters, where the majority of the traffic is.
Oh, okay.
With the reverse, if you're southbound in the morning, you've got 20,000 vehicles going south in the morning, 20,000 going north in the evening. So in the morning, we'll convoy southbound. In the morning, we will have a single operation, lane operation northbound with slower traffic. We'll reverse it in the evening.
Okay, so that won't change.
No, that won't change.
Okay, the last
Oh,
question.
come on, we can do a couple.
Sorry. Well, last question. When's it expected to begin? When's it expected to finish?
That depends on the commissioner's decision. I and the staff have made our recommendations. I hope the commissioners will consider our recommendations at the next meeting. At the earliest, assuming that we get a go with it, we've got to go through the financing, which is conservatively 6 to 9 months out. Construction would probably be, I would think, a year or 14 months out before we'll see anything.
Okay, so all in maybe 24 months?
Before I start, I think the earliest we'd see a start would be for the fall of next year.
So
And
12 months to start
Yes, sir.
and 12 months to finish?
Actually, for the segmented shoulders, that would be 2 years. It could be accelerated, but this is something else we're trying. We have to go out in the state laws as far as advertising, bidding. We're trying to be innovative here. The state will not allow a design-build project, but we want to make this as competitive as possible. And this, again, is conceptual just between staff and commissioners now, but particularly for the segmented shoulders. The rails, the designs that's pretty much there. But for the segmented shoulders, we'd like to give the designers and the contractors, basically, this is what we want. We need 2 blocks of shoulder. We need it without impacting traffic, and we need it as quick as possible for this price or less. And come tell us what you can do. Now, I'm not sure, but that's what we'd like. Whether the state laws allow us to do that is still up to the discussion.
Great job, Carl.
Thank you guys very much. Thank you again, Lacey, and all of you for putting this together. And can I get a round of applause for Stacy for driving all this stuff? And if you don't like me, tell these two guys and they'll give me the heave-ho.
So Rhonda, Humana, thank you so much. You guys have, I think you've done every breakfast for what, like 2-3 years? Yeah, more. It's we really appreciate it. Lacey said there might be a few engineers in the room that really want to stick around and
Can't
ask
wait.
more detailed questions. So thanks so much for attending. Thank you.